Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Pitcher with Synario. Thank you all for joining us today. I am very pleased to be able to introduce Rob Robinson. Rob is the Vice President, Finance and Administration for St. Michael's College. Rob, thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So maybe we'll start just by asking you to tell us something about St. Michael's College, for anything that folks here might not already know, and then introduce yourself and what you do there.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, for those who don't know, St. Michael's is a Catholic liberal arts college located just outside of Burlington, Vermont. We were founded in 1904 by the Society of St. Edmund and have been educating grads and undergrads ever since that time. We have a beautiful 400-acre campus that we're thrilled about and happy to share our story with you all today. I'm actually a grad of St. Michael's. I won't tell you the year because that's just embarrassing to me. But I really am a product of the St. Michael's education, and I'm very clear that my life is exponentially better having chosen St. Michael's many moons ago, and really being a product of what we do for young people in the transformative educational experiences we give them. After a career in banking and in technology, I came back to St. Michael's in 2007 in a management finance role. And in 2017, I was appointed vice president of finance. That has now expanded to be vice president of finance and administration. So my sort of book of business is finance, HR, IT, facilities, and business services.
That is a full slate, as they say.
It is. It keeps me on my toes. I have a great team, which makes it all possible.
Well, our purpose today is to talk a little bit about St. Michael's, financial planning and analysis and how that goes. So maybe I'll start by asking, how has the financial landscape of higher ed, evolved in recent years, and what specific challenges does St. Michael's College face in terms of financial sustainability?
Absolutely. Great question. We face a lot of the same challenges that, frankly, are well documented both within the higher ed press and more globally and broadly in just the national press. There's a well documented decline in high school graduates, particularly in the Northeast and the Midwest. So we have been aware of and preparing for that demographic decline for the last 10 years. I think what we weren't quite prepared for was the recent more economic turmoil really sparked by the global pandemic. That really, had an impact, right? Students realizing that they didn't want to study online, so they were going to take a break and attend college later. And now, in addition to that, we're seeing impact from, frankly, rising wage growth. Students who are sort of on the bubble about higher ed are now finding that they have great opportunities in the workforce that is causing them to, again, question if now is the right time for them to attend college.
Wow. So with all that in mind, maybe could you provide an overview of the financial planning process at St. Michael's, and how does that align with your institution's strategic goals now?
Absolutely. We've been a Synario customer and Future Perfect before that for over 15 years. It has been a key tool for us in really doing our long-term strategic planning. Our model goes sort of 5 years into the future and is really based around our sort of key major assumptions. What do we anticipate our new student cohort being? What inflationary increases are we putting to cost of attendance? What are we assuming as a discount rate? How much financial aid are those new students going to receive? What is our retention expectation? What is our fundraising goals? And then how does that dovetail with our expense load? How much CapEx are we bringing on? How much compensation increase? What are we doing with positions, and what are we doing with strategic investment? And really, with all of those factors, and again, they're just assumptions, and we all know that the world rarely aligns to assumptions, but with all that in place, Synario gives us the ability to really have sort of a set of parameters and bounds. If we enroll this many students on this set of assumptions, the revenues will be X and the expenses can support Y.
Mm.
And from there, we can really fine tune our decision making.
So speaking of expenses and kind of looking at those sort of negative revenue changes you may have seen through the COVID, when it comes to costs, what initiatives have you put into place to control costs and frankly to improve operational efficiency without sort of affecting the quality of the education?
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Affecting the quality of the education is our guiding principle. We've done two things of import. I think the first really is that we've always been a frugal institution, and we have really doubled down on looking at where every dollar is spent and determining if that really has a substantial impact on the student experience. And if it doesn't, then we really take a hard look at doing without it. I think the other thing that we've done, something that I'm particularly proud of, is our work as a founding member of the Green Mountain Higher Education Consortium. 10 years ago, 3 college presidents from St. Michael's, Champlain, and Middlebury all came together and said, we have more in common as small colleges in northern Vermont than we do differences. We don't have a ton of overlap in our market segments, and how can we leverage our opportunities to collaborate and reduce costs to provide then more impact to our students. So some of the things that we've done is consolidate some of our backroom functions like accounts payable, right? There's a lot of things that go into a student's decision-making process on what school they collect. The speed and efficiency at which we pay our accounts payable invoices isn't one of them. So let's leverage that to greater efficiency so that we have more money to put into the things that impact students directly.
That's very interesting. So what came to mind for me first was the idea of sharing vendors, for example, right, to get better better purchasing power. But to take something like a back office function and share that is very, very interesting for sure.
Absolutely. The whole economies of scale, buying power, that was very clearly phase one. As we moved into phase 2 and 3, we really took a big leap. We purchased an ERP system together, configured it together, and now we live in a shared instance of Oracle in their cloud version for finance and HR. So that has really allowed us opportunities to take some of the backroom functions and consolidate them together, which again has been vitally important for a school like St. Michael's as we've reduced employee headcount. This has really allowed us to create a broader team to do accounts payable, for example, than we ever could have had as a standalone entity. Now people have the ability to take vacation, crazy things like that, and not have to worry about who's going to do their work while they, take the break that they need and deserve.
Right. So, touching on, budgeting and resource allocation. So how do you determine financial priorities now, and how are those priorities communicated across the institution?
Those conversations really start with the president and the president's cabinet, of which I'm a member. And the administrative team really looks at what are our priorities, what are the things that are going to help us attract and retain students, again, in a highly competitive market. We then bring those proposals and recommendations to our board. Our board is very actively engaged, and we have excellent conversation sort of across the management and governance model to really talk about, yes, this is the place where we're going to put our resource. Then we, roll that out to the community in kind of public forums. We have another one planned for next week, and really then become the institutional priorities which everyone gets behind. And again, it's most schools like St. Michael's to choose how they're going to prioritize their resources.
Right. So we touched on the COVID pandemic a few minutes ago. So how did your team, manage finances around that and adapt to those changing circumstances? And what lessons did we learn from that?
Yeah, we dealt with it on the fly, and we learned that we can do a lot of things. It was very clearly trial by fire. I think, as we all experienced throughout COVID, the rules and what you thought was happening was changing by the day. We were very fortunate to receive relief funds through many of the various state and federal programs, as many schools did. That was a tremendous lifeline to us. But that also came with additional reporting responsibilities and additional workloads, right? A big part of HERF was distributing money to students to offset their costs. That
Right.
was something that wasn't really built into our planning and modeling. But we do what we do at St. Michael's. We rolled up our sleeves and we found solutions. So again, I think we learned a lot. We learned about institutional priorities and resources. But I think we also learned that students really love what we do. And we saw a spike in first to second and second to third year retention as students realized, I like being at St. Michael's more than I like being at home in my basement looking at a screen and trying to get an education that way.
Interesting. So, the financial success and viability of any higher education institution and many of our peers is related to properly managed endowments and investment programs. So looking to St. Michael's, what strategies are in place to ensure, long-term financial stability and growth with those in mind?
Absolutely. We are very fortunate to have a strong endowment for a college of our size. And we are even more fortunate to have a long line of primarily alumni and trustees with experience in the investment space. So we have an investment committee, 8 members currently. They are a statutory subcommittee of our board of trustees and have the responsibility for managing the endowment. So they meet quarterly along with myself and our investment advisor to really talk about the investment landscape, the various sectors and diversifications that we should be in to, again, have a portfolio that performs in all market conditions, not just a portfolio that is indexed to one of the funds and is either going to be up 30% or down 20%, depending on what the broader economic conditions do. That's really bought us a layer of flexibility that, again, many schools of our size don't have.
So I would imagine when managing that process, there are key performance indicators, of course, that you have in place to understand your success and your risk. So looking more generally at the institution as a whole, what KPIs do you use to kind of assess your overall financial health and performance? And then, how are those metrics used to inform decision making?
Yeah, I think we take a little bit more holistic view. I very clearly see the finances as a result. So a lot of our KPIs are at other points in the business. What is our new student enrollment? What is our discount rate, right? That is a good indication of how students and their families see the value of your product. What are our donors saying? And really then those all come together into the financial statements. And there are our KPIs, our expense control, annual surplus or deficit, net cash flow, and really then using those to, again, prioritize the limited resources to the things that are of most import, both to the institution broadly and to our students.
So, can you discuss any recent or upcoming initiatives or projects that you've been working on to support the college's strategic objectives? Anything in particular that you're putting in place or have recently put into place to enhance your financial sustainability?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that comes to mind, we've recently done a debt issuance. We refinanced some prior debt that had become callable at its 10-year maturity or anniversary date. And through that process, we really looked at not only how can we defer some principal payments to manage cash flow in the next 5 years as we really sort of ride out this sort of reckoning that is coming for higher education, but simultaneously did a new money component that is giving us an opportunity to make investment in facilities, in infrastructure, in deferred maintenance, in ways that are, again, are really going to be attractive. One of the things that is a very exciting thing for us and a very large point of pride is our athletic programs. We offer 21 varsity sports, and a substantial percentage of our students are student athletes. So with this new money, we're going to be able to invest, upgrade some of our athletic facilities, and really, again, try to make ourselves more attractive to students and more competitive on the playing surface.
So any higher education institution is typically a collection of cohorts, right? A collection of external stakeholders as well. So you've got donors, alumni, local community members, of course. So you've got to secure financial support and foster partnerships with those folks. So any particular initiatives in place that are helping you do that?
I wouldn't say any particular initiatives. I think it is our long-standing kind of open dialogue with those constituencies. It's one of the benefits, frankly, that we have of being a school our size. Not only do we offer a highly customizable experience to our students, we offer the same level of customization to our constituencies. So
Right.
if a donor is really interested in our athletic program, then we really dig in with them, work through what is happening in those programs, what our needs are, how their financial support can really benefit the program and the student athlete experience, and leverage that really personalized communication with that constituent. Simultaneously, we have exciting things happening. We have 3 centers for social impact. One of them is our Center for the Environment, and we are fortunate. One of our most notable alums is former Senator Patrick Leahy. Senator Leahy just retired, and we are the beneficiary of a $6.5 million federal appropriation to expand our Center for the Environment, which again is a perfect intersection of areas of strength for us. We have a strong environmental program. We have an on-campus wetland and research area, and that is, again, an area of interest to college students because climate crisis is, one of the major issues of the day.
Indeed. So in what ways does St. Michael's College promote transparency and accountability in your reporting? So, how do you ensure compliance with relevant financial regulations and standards, for example?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Frankly, for me, transparency and compliance are kind of different but the same. Transparency has certainly become a very much a buzzword, and we work to provide the information to our constituents that we need to share, and sort of give them the information that is helpful to them, simultaneously working to balance that, right? The finances of an institution like St. Michael's are complex, and looking at one number or one KPI doesn't tell the whole story. So working to make sure that we have a well-educated employee base who understands the budget, our financial performance, the impact of decisions we make, like doing a bond issue. And simultaneously, then there's the whole compliance, right? Being aligned with the rules and regulations. We have strong policies and procedures and an excellent team across the institution to really make sure that we are meeting those compliance goals. And we really see that in both our audits, which we have a long history of clean audits, with our external auditors, as well as strong relationships with Department of Ed, our creditors, and other sort of constituents.
Right. So beyond the enrollment cliff, of course, which everyone's talking about, are there other trends or emerging issues in higher ed finance that you believe will have a significant impact on your institution? And if so, how are you preparing to address those challenges?
One of the areas that I have an eye on right now, I just heard from a professor in the business department who is doing a speaker series this fall on ESG investing practices. Really an emerging sort of paradigm of what schools are going to do with their investments and their policies and procedures, particularly around endowments. I think really a continuation of the conversation from 10 or so years ago about divestment of fossil fuels. That's an area that I very closely have my eye on, because I think it is important and something that St. Michael's has always really done quietly and behind the scenes. We've always looked at how our money is invested and do those investments align with our value and our mission. Simultaneously, when you create standards like ESG, particularly in the early phases, those standards are ever evolving, and we need to be careful as to how we figure out how to balance an ESG standard that might change in 6, 12, 18 months, and how to dovetail that with an investment decision where we're locking up money for 5 to 10 years. That's an area that I very much have my eye
on. Right. So we talked a little bit about external stakeholders. Obviously, you've got to deal internally with various departments. There's enrollment management, academic affairs. I assume you're looking for a coordinated approach. So how do you collaborate with those departments? How do you get buy-in from everyone internally?
Relationship. I'm fortunate, again, that we have a great team. My fellow vice presidents and I speak regularly. I speak to some of them daily. I certainly speak to others of them on a just continuing, ongoing basis, really just making sure that the things that they're doing are both known to finance, because, again, most things that they're doing require the spending of money, and the spending of money is important to me and to finance. So really understanding how we're all working to the same objectives, and that happens through communication and relationship.
So just one more question. So technology, we're obviously all looking to the future and looking for tools to make our job easier. What technology, have you put in place for financial operations and decision-making at St. Michael's? Any specific tools or systems that have been implemented to streamline that process?
Sure, absolutely. I think we've talked about them, right? Our use of Synario has been, again, transformative. 15 years ago, very few colleges, in my experience, were doing the type of long-range planning that has been native to us for quite some time. The implementation of Oracle and really leveraging best practice through a complete ground-up redesign with 2 other schools, looking at how we leverage these tools, has been incredibly important, and frankly has been fruitful. We have tighter control of our budgets and better information for our budget managers. And again, back to relationship, I think one of our goals for the coming year is less about the technology and more about the communication and the relationship. Looking beyond that, I think, again, you can't go anywhere without hearing about the growth of AI. And I very much have my eye toward how AI is going to help us both to automate routine tasks like expense report approval. How is it going to be leveraged by auditors and accreditors to take massive amounts of data and cull through it to find interesting tidbits? And simultaneously, how are we going to use it internally for effectiveness within the finance team. I think it's incredibly exciting and moving, frankly, faster than anything that I've seen in technology. So that's clearly an area that I have my eye on.
Exciting and scary at the same time.
You bet. You bet. Absolutely.
Indeed. Well, Rob, it sure was a pleasure talking with you today. We appreciate your time. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned through St. Michael's own experience, and we thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thanks, Mark. Again, thanks for having me. Glad to be here to tell a little bit about our story. And I'm very appreciative to the team at Synario. They really help us do what we need to do and keep our eye to the future.
Thank you so much. And everybody who joined us, thanks so much. We appreciate your time as well. Please feel free to get in touch if you would like to learn more. We'd be happy to speak with you. I'm Mark Pitcher with Synario. Goodbye.